Okay, everyone, we're going to get started today. Welcome to another Brand Yourself webinar. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to type it in the questions chat. Also, if there's any audio issues, please feel free to let me know in that questions chat and I'll make sure to rectify it. But my name is Sabrina Clark and I'm with the marketing team here at Brand Yourself. And I'm very excited for today's webinar. It's on the topic of making the career jump with your online reputation. So whether you're in a position where you want that next promotion or you're thinking about jumping careers entirely, we want to help you prepare your online reputation so you have the best chance of landing your next dream job. So, how important is it? You might be sitting there thinking, I have a million and one things that I got to do to get ready for this next promotion or get ready for, my next career. But how important is it? First and foremost, a billion names are Googled every single day. And of those names, hiring managers are the ones that are doing the Googling. About 75% right now of hiring managers are required to research candidates online. So during that process of where they're considering a candidate, 75% of HR departments have gone on record saying, yep, we Google our candidates, we look at what's out there about them, and part of our decision is based on what we find. So a lot of this webinar today is to make sure that when those hiring managers are Googling you, that they're finding really amazing stuff and you're getting that edge on other candidates for that position. So first, let's take just to really hit home how important this is, let's pretend you're the hiring manager and you have three applicants, in front of you. Applicant one is Nathan. You Google him, you see his resume. His resume might be impressive, but when you do actually Google him, you find, blog posts from a former colleague. You might find a party photo or two from college. Maybe he's on social media, but he's not really sharing industry stuff. It seems to be, somewhat inappropriate, and it's really not looking good in comparison to the resume that you received. Applicant two, is Irene. And you Google her, and while you don't find anything negative like you found Nathan, you find pretty much nothing. And that's the problem. You don't find her LinkedIn, you don't find any achievements she's done. While her resume is impressive, it really doesn't, her online presence doesn't supplement it at all. And that might be fine until you look at your last application and it's Anna's. And her resume is great. You Google her and you find an amazing LinkedIn with all of these connections, a personal website that's relevant to her field and her industry. You might see, her contributing blog posts that's relevant to the industry that you guys are in. She's on all the right social media sites. She's sharing all the right things and connecting with all the right people. And all of a sudden, Anna becomes all the more better than Irene, because Anna not only, talks the talk, but she walks the walk online. She's proving that she's an authority in the industry. And I can bet if you're the hiring manager right now, you want to pick Anna. So you don't want to fall into a position where you're Irene and you're losing out to someone who does have this amazing online presence. And you definitely don't want to be Nathan, where your online presence is actually harming you. So how do you make sure you stand out from the crowd? And it's quite simple. You want to create an online presence for the job you want. So whether it's a promotion within your own industry and you want to show that you're a real authority, or you're thinking about changing careers entirely, changing industries entirely, you need to create that online presence to prove that you deserve that job in the new industry. So how do you do it? And we're going to talk mostly in this webinar today about building that online presence for the job you want. And building an online presence is a three-step process. First, you want to create high-quality websites and profiles about you. You want to optimize them so that people can actually find them when they Google you. And then you want to update them over time. So you keep your online presence relevant, you keep it ranking well in search engines, and you don't let anything get stagnant or too outdated. So the first thing that you want to do is building high quality websites and professional profiles. And you really want to highlight, your accolades and your achievements in your current position that match well with the position that you want. A few tips about your website. It should be a central hub for info about you. Think of this as your online resume. And I always tell, people that, are looking for jobs or want to use their online presence for their next job is to really make sure that you're using your website as your online resume. If you have a really great website, don't be afraid to put it in your email signature. Don't be afraid to put it on, your actual resume as another source of information for someone to find you. But what do you actually put on this website? First, you want to put your bio and your About Me section. Any relevant experience and accomplishments that you've had, both in your industry and the industry you hope to be in if you're making that career leap. Contact info and the best way to reach you. You want to, if a recruiter finds your website, you want to make sure that they have the best way to reach you. Press, awards, accolades, etc. Make sure that, anything that you've achieved, make sure to highlight. And I know a lot of people, when they get to this point, they're concerned about being a little bit too over promotional or too stuffy. And you want, there's a way that you can highlight your achievements without seeming like you're bragging. No one's going to hate on you if you put that you won this award. They might hate on you if you say, I'm the best person and I definitely deserve this award. So there is a way to, in a very classy manner, put this information online about you. And also include any interests, hobbies, organizations you're a part of. They don't necessarily all have to deal with your career. If they complement your career, so for example, if you're in the advertising industry and you join an advertising association for young professionals, obviously put that on there. But also if you go, if you run marathons on the weekend, put that on there as well. People want to have that connection, and you never know that one interest or that, point of similarity that the recruiter or the hiring manager might find that could really create that connection between the two of you. So make sure to highlight everything about you. In terms of actually building your website at Brand Yourself, we recommend WordPress. It's relatively, easy to use. It's free. There is a paid version, but you can use WordPress for free. It's SEO friendly, which is important, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but that basically means it ranks well. They tend to rank well in Google if you build them right. And there is an all-in-one SEO pack that you can download as part of the WordPress platform, and that just takes you through a lot of what we're going to talk about and automates it for you, so you don't have to worry, oh, is my website ranking well? The next thing that you want to do is, if you're not already on the right social networks for your industry, make sure you're on them. The big four that we like to talk about are Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and LinkedIn. Obviously, if you're looking for a job, LinkedIn is incredibly important. There's a lot of recruiters on there, a lot of hiring managers. At Brand Yourself, we use LinkedIn on a daily basis to find, new recruits. So make sure your LinkedIn is definitely beefed out if you're in this position of your career where you're going to be making that jump. But also make sure that you're on social networks that are relevant to your industry. And it might take some investigation. You can do a quick Google search and say, top social networks for the legal industry, or top social networks for marketing, top social networks for real estate. You get the idea. Or ask some of your colleagues or your friends in the field, see what they're on, see what's being shared on those networks, and just make sure that you're on them. Because what that shows to any hiring manager is that you're an authority. You care so much about your career and being an authority in the field that, you're on the right social networks, you're creating content and sharing content that's relevant to the industry. And I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn, just because it is so important during this, phase that you're probably going through, where you're either looking for a promotion within your own field, maybe you want to join a bigger firm or a more notable firm, or you're looking to make that entire career step. How do you position your LinkedIn well? And we could have an entire webinar on just this, and we have. I'll make sure to share that with you guys at the end. But I just want to cover some basics that you should be aware of for your LinkedIn. And this is actually Brand Yourself CEO's LinkedIn, Patrick's. I'm going to use it as an example. But you want to make sure that all of the fields are filled out. So if there's information that you have, make sure you're filling it out. Obviously, put all of your experience, but I want to highlight these 3 areas for being so important about your LinkedIn. The one is your title. Patrick Amron, he has his name in there, which is good for search engines. He's the co-founder and CEO of BrandYourself.com. He filled out, his education, what he's doing, what industry he's in. And then in his summary, he actually put his press bio. He made sure that it was a unique bio, but nonetheless, it's a great bio that really highlights everything about what he's doing with Brand Yourself and also what he's doing within our own industry, which is the industry of online reputation management. And then the skills section is so important. This is a relatively new feature to LinkedIn, and by new, I mean a few years old now, but it's become one of the most, I think, important. For one, it's getting information about you on your profile that is actually applicable to positions that you're looking for. And people can, of course, endorse you. So if you want to encourage colleagues or people that you've worked with in the past that definitely know that can handle these skills, then I obviously advocate that. And people can also nominate you for skills, meaning if you don't have a necessary skill on there, they can say, hey, no, this person's really good at social media marketing. If you're looking to jump positions, this section is so important if you're looking to change careers, because here's where you can find skills that you're using right now that can be applicable to the position that you want. So let's say that you're going from, a marketing position to now you want to go into the insurance industry. You want to find skills that you were doing in marketing that can be used in the insurance industry and that people are looking for. Just because it's 2 different industries doesn't mean you don't have the skills to operate well in both. So you want to highlight that for anyone that's looking on your LinkedIn, whether it be a recruiter or an HR manager. The other thing that I can't stress is to contribute articles that are relevant to your field. So if you've written anything or thinking about writing something, you want to make sure that you're contributing content. And LinkedIn lets you share content that you've created on your profile. So this is a piece of content that Patrick wrote about our specific industry. It's about Google results that can, harm your career. He got a lot of views from it. He got a lot of likes and shares, which was great from Brand Yourself's perspective and our brand. What it also did is it became a point of authority for him. He's able to now point back to this piece and say, if you were to go on an interview, I'm great in this space. I would like to refer you to this article that I wrote that was, really cutting edge in terms of what's going on in the online reputation management space. And you can create that same air of authority with your own industry by sharing this type of stuff on LinkedIn. Some other tips for LinkedIn, which I mentioned, highlight skills that are applicable. Use the right keywords and buzzwords for the industry. This is going to require a little research on your part. Find people that have the job you want. It doesn't have to be the exact one that you're trying to get, but let's say you're trying to be an account executive at a mid-sized firm. Find account executives on LinkedIn that are in mid-sized firms and see what they're putting on their LinkedIn, especially if they have a lot of connections, their LinkedIn's really well filled out. Those keywords are what recruiters are looking for when they're hiring someone. And there's also plenty of articles online that you can find about specific industries and what keywords you need to be putting on there. But make sure they're there. Then you want to also find, second, third connections that are in your desired field and potentially request an intro. So if you have a friend that you went to college with who has a connection that is exactly in the field that you're doing, send him a LinkedIn mail and say, hey, I'm really interested in moving positions. I would really love to talk to your friend. I notice he's in the same field that I want to be in. Would you mind if you just introduced us so, we can start a conversation? If you do it in a not creepy way, then people are really receptive to that. People love networking and they love helping one another out. And if you're able to find a second and third connection, it'll go a lot better than you just trying to message random people on LinkedIn. And then join groups that are in your industry and follow companies and brands that are the big players in your industry. See what they're sharing, reshare their content. You can even access their employees that way. So if you are hoping to work with a specific brand, you might be able to find people that you have shared connections with. The next thing that you want to do, so once you have your website and you have your social media profiles, is you want to optimize them so that they'll actually rank well. And what this means is let's say a hiring manager gets your resume, sees your name on your resume, types it in the search bar to do a little research. We want to make sure all of the stuff that you're creating is actually going to show up on that first page of Google search results. And that's a process that we call search engine optimization. And it's simply just making sure the content that you're creating is going to show up as high as possible for your name. To highlight some of the basics, SEO can be rather complex, but I just want to take you through some of the basics so you have an understanding. And I'll go a little bit further into each one in a little bit. If I ever get a little too technical, just type a question in the bar and I'll make sure to get to it at the end. On the left, you have on-page factors. So these are things that are actually happening on your website. And if it's your website, then you're able to control them. And that first is the architecture and structure. I'll get into a little bit of that in a second. So actually how the website is structured can impact it. Keyword and content, this is so important. If you want something to rank for your name, then your name needs to be on the website. So making sure that your name is in a number of key places. And then relevancy. When someone's looking up something on Google, Google wants to be able to give that person the most relevant content as possible. And a lot of times that means the most, new content, or if they're looking up something that's, newsworthy, or time is an important factor, the more relevant that the content is, meaning the more fresh and new it is, the more likely it is to rank. So you want to keep it active and relevant. You don't want a website that you haven't touched in 4 years, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And then on the right, you have your off-page factors. Now, these are things that are not necessarily happening on your website or your social media profile, but they're affecting it. And while you might not necessarily be able to control these factors, you can influence them. The first is links. So I always say on all of my webinars that a link to a website or a profile, Google considers that as a vote for it to rank higher. Because, Google's logic is if people are sharing and linking to this content, then it must be important. Now, I'm definitely not saying to go out and buy 5,000 links to your website, because that's, the wrong way to do it, and it could actually penalize you. But if you have, a website that you're really proud of, if you link to it in your email signature, if you create a piece of content online, you can link to it. If you want to share it with your friends, that's great. If you want to put it in your social media profiles, there's a lot of areas when you create a social media profile to put a website. Definitely put that there. All of those positive links are going to help it rank a little bit higher. And then that also, ties right into the second point, which is social sharing. So sharing it on social media networks. So the first thing that you want to do for the sake of SEO is to get your domain name if you don't already have one. So this is yourname.com. So sabrinaclark.net. Or sabrinaclark.com, sabrinaclark.info. Those are domain names. And you want to get one for your name. It's relatively simple. In fact, it's so simple that I recommend the first thing that you should absolutely do when you get off this webinar, if you don't already have one, is to go to a site like GoDaddy.com or Hover.com and look up and see if yourname.com is available, or some variation. .net is okay, .info, .me, those are all fine as well. They're relatively inexpensive unless you have a crazy competitive name. And make sure, and here's the important thing, keep your full name together. So the name that you're going to use on the web about you, or the name that's on your resume. So I have Sabrina Clark on my resume. So my domain name, I want to try to get sabrinaclark.com. And if I can't get sabrinaclark.com, which I actually couldn't when I went to go purchase a domain name, I might try to get sabrinaclarkonline.com or sabrinaclarkmarketing.com, because that's the field that I'm in. And even if you don't plan to use this right away, what this does is, for one, it prevents someone else from buying it out from under you. So SabrinaClark.com wasn't available, so I wasn't fast enough to go ahead and register it. And also what it does is it makes sure that you have it. You know, when you actually go to purchase a website or create a website rather, or a social media profile that lets you use a custom domain, you have it. You don't have to worry about, oh, my name's not available. Which one should I get? If it's available right now, buy it. And this ties into that you should be using your real name everywhere that you have content online. So social media profiles, throughout your website, throughout your bios. Two examples here is on the left is a search engine friendly way to do things. So that's a Twitter handle, John Smith, and the bio is in the third person. So John Smith is a real estate agent. What that did is it got John Smith a number of places on the page, and it indicates to Google that, hey, this Twitter page is about that John Smith guy that person's Googling. You might want to put it up on the first page of their search results. On the right is a not so great way to go about it. You know, Big JS 151. You know, how is Google supposed to know that this Twitter is about John Smith when someone Googles John Smith? And the bios is in the first person. Now, I always get this question a lot as a follow-up, where people are concerned that writing in the third person is a little too stuffy. They want to show some personality, and that's completely fine. Just make sure that your name is in a number of key areas throughout the page. Writing your bio in the third person is the easiest way to do it. So maybe you write, a short bio in the third person, and then the rest is in first person. And then here's some more information about, once you have your website, about making sure it's as search engine friendly as possible. This is a little technical. This is, someone who's actually building their own website. If you have a website and it's not ranking well, or you have some questions, there's going to be some contact info at the end to set up a consultation, and I definitely recommend doing that. I'm going to go over some key areas here. If you're really confused, by all means, feel free to ask a question. So this goes back to the actual structure. It needs to be structured well to indicate that this site is about you. That includes a mainline navigation. So that's like when you go to a website and see home and all the different, tabs for the landing pages that you can click through. That's the navigation. You want to keep it up to date and relevant. So if you have new information about you, make sure you put it on there. Don't let your website go stagnant for a few years. Include your name, like I mentioned, throughout key areas, including that domain, throughout the body of the content and all of that fun stuff. And then this is probably the most technical thing that I'm going to mention, and that's your title tag. So the title tag is basically, and I have an example of it on the bottom, that title tag is basically, what will show up about your website in search engines. And you want to make sure that that has your name. And I put there that, the WordPress all-in-one SEO plug that I mentioned earlier is a really easy way to get your title tag into your website without, any sort of coding knowledge or site knowledge, because it's basically, right here what you want your title tag to be, and it'll let you do that. If you have any questions about that further, or how to do it to your own site, I'd be more than happy to set you up with that consultation. And this is an example of one of our other co-founders, Pete. This is his website. And you'll notice down at the bottom here, he has his mainline navigation. So he has home, he has press, which is, press about him, interests, music, his blog, and his contact page. So this is all of the information that you need to know about Pete, who's a software designer at Brand Yourself, but he's also a musician. And this is just a quick screenshot of his about page. You'll notice that it's written in the third person, that he includes, information about his time at Brand Yourself, and it's also written in a way that it's not stuffy. So even though it's in the third person, it still has some of Pete's personality, and it really doesn't, he doesn't lose who he is by just writing it in the third person. So this is basically proof that, you can write it in the third person and make it SEO friendly without losing the essence of the website. And then one of the last, SEO type things I'm going to talk about is linking your content together. And this might seem confusing when you first look at it, but it's really very simple, the concept. What this basically says is that if you have, let's say you have a website or two and several social media profiles, you basically want to indicate to Google that all of these things are related. And that's simply linking them together. So if you have, johndoe.com, you want to make sure that, you have all of your social media profiles or other places to find you on the web, on your website, but also on your social media sites that you're linking to your website as well. And I mentioned earlier that most social media sites have a field that you can put a website. So it's very simple to do. You just have to make sure that you're actually doing it. And again, what that does is it signals to Google, hey, the information that you're seeing is all about John Doe. And then the last thing that you want to do in this 3-step process, you've created your content, or rather, you've created your websites and profiles. You've optimized them so that they have the best chance of ranking on the first page when people Google your name. Now you want to create, maintain, and promote content over time. And this ties back to that relevancy thing I was talking to. This is making sure that you're adding more content to the web about you, which not only helps create more search results for you, but it also keeps all of your content fresh and up to date. So post content regularly, blog about topics that are relevant to your industry, as well as the industry that you hope to, be in, if that's what you're looking to do, make that jump. An interesting point here is, rich media ranks well. So that's things like images, videos, slide shares. If you're not familiar with SlideShare, that's, basically you can share presentations. It's a social media network. I highly recommend it. And incorporate work you've already put in. So if you've created, a presentation for, something that you gave as part of your job, maybe put that online, and now that's a piece of content that's relevant to your industry. Or if you're looking to jump industries, then maybe create something that could be used for both, or use something that you've done in the past that could be used for both. And here are just some blogging strategies because it is so important. A few easy to use blogging platforms, WordPress. So if you have your website on WordPress, it's very easy to add a blog element to that. Or if you just want to have your blog on WordPress, that's easy as well. Medium is also a good one, and it's free to use. It was developed by the people who founded Twitter. And Tumblr is also a great one, also free to use, easy to use. And basically all these tools ensure that you could start blogging right away. In terms of topics, you want to, at the same time that you're creating content, don't forget that you're trying to create yourself as an authority in your current industry or a new one. So, maybe write about frequently asked questions, industry trends, things that you find in the news that are relevant. In terms of a word count, I would keep it about 250 to 500 words. You can go over, that's totally fine. In fact, that's great. But that's a good benchmark. And, it's not really hard to write within that benchmark. So this will also make sure that you're blogging a lot more. You don't need every time that you're blogging to create these massive, well-researched, well-cited, thought-out articles. While it's great if you put those out, it's also important that you're putting out content on a regular basis. So if, 500 words is easy for you to do once a month, then definitely go ahead and do it. And include appropriate title and tags. And basically what this just means is, whatever platform that you're posting this post on, make sure you're filling out all of the fields when it comes to submitting the post. And that'll just make sure that it's as search engine friendly as possible. The next thing for relevancy is update your social media profiles regularly. This is one of the easiest ways to make sure that your content is updated. Make a schedule. If you have a real hard time keeping your profiles updated, maybe, every Friday or every Monday or just 3 or 4 times a week or a month, I'm going to update my social media profiles. If you make a point of that, it becomes a lot easier. And there are services that you can use to manage, or rather tools you can use to manage your social media, like Hootsuite, or which is a site called, If This Then That, which helps you automate a lot of this stuff. The important thing is that you're updating your social media profiles. And I always say it's so much better that you have 3 or 4 social media profiles that you keep updated on a regular basis than 20 that you never touch. It's much more better for your overall personal brand as well as search engines to really focus on those 4 if that's all you have time for. And then follow, key influencers in your industry. If you're looking to break into a new one, this is an easy way to get acclimated. Also, if you're looking to make that big promotion, these are industry influencers. Follow them, see what they're sharing, see what type of content they're creating. It might just, spark your ideas for that next big push you need. And then share interesting things that you posted, of course. So if you read a blog post, make sure to share it with your friends on social media. That's the easiest way to get links to it and get it shared online. And when you can, include a link, so a link to another piece of content, an image, a video. What this does is just increase engagement, which helps your overall SEO strategy. So on the left, you'll see an example of a tweet that we did when we were on Shark Tank, and we included a link and an image. And this really helps, boost the engagement, which overall is just good for your overall strategy. So before I jump into questions, which I already see you guys have some, which is great. Again, feel free to type them in the question bar if you do. I want to jump into a really quick case study. So I want to take someone who's in a specific situation and just see how we would build that online presence for him. And the person we're going to take is Bob. So right now, Bob is an account manager at an advertising firm in the city, in New York City. He's an upstate New York native and commutes into the city. So he's really, well versed in New York, but specifically upstate New York. And he wants to be a real estate agent. So for this specific, in upstate New York. So for this specific case study, we're taking someone who is in one industry and now is to create a complete online presence for another industry. And he's going to use a lot of what he's already created, which is good. The first thing that he wants to do is, if he doesn't already have high quality websites and professional profiles, he wants to get on that. He wants to create a personal website. He wants to make sure he's on social media sites. And he wants to make sure he's on the right social media networks for his industry. So all the ones I showed you earlier, they're all still great for him to be on. Obviously LinkedIn, Twitter is great, Facebook, Google+. YouTube is really good in the real estate industry because you can share videos of properties and, personal, videos about, communities that, you're sharing, you're working in rather. Pinterest is a really good one for, that's good for all industries, but very much specifically for real estate because real estate is very much image focused. The next one is Vimeo, which is another, video platform. And the last one is SlideShare. That's also a really great platform for real estate agents. Anyone can use the ones in the gray, but these are all really great for real estate as well. And then on the bottom in the colored those are ones that are specific for the real estate industry or, really cater to real estate agents. So he should be on them. He should be on Zillow. He should be on Trulia. House. While anyone can get House, it's really important for real estate agents to get on it because, people go to House when, they're looking for a new house or, they're looking to sell their house or they're looking for inspiration to improve their own house. So a lot of the audience that you want is on that site. He's going to identify and highlight comparable skills. So he's going to take things that he was doing as an advertising executive in New York and apply it to how he could, parlay it to be a real estate agent in upstate New York. One of the skills is communication. He was an account executive and dealing with clients. He has really great communication. He's able to, now parlay that to real estate and really work with his new real estate clients and figure out the best property for them, the best lifestyle for them. He's able to take that communication skills and as well as his interpersonal skills and really leverage it well in real estate. Same goes for customer service. He was an account executive and dealing again with his client, putting out fires, answering questions on a quick basis. He's going to need to use those same skills for when he's a real estate agent. And he's, perhaps he's looking to, jump into a real estate firm or get a job at a firm first. He doesn't want to work by himself. So by highlighting all of these skills that he's cultivated as an advertising executive, he's able to use that as a way to really interview well for that new position with the real estate firm, as well as his knowledge of the area is also really great. He's going to create relevant content. Start creating that. They always say dress for the job you want. Create content for the job you want. Blogging, slide shares, videos. Some examples of content that he could create. Maybe buying, selling, renting trends in upstate New York. Top questions, a first-time buyer might have. If he doesn't really know all of the answers to this, there's really great articles that are already written. He could take inspiration from that, not copy them, but take inspiration. Things to do in upstate New York. Since he knows the area so well, he can create, content for people that are looking to move to upstate New York. And then what he was doing is positioning himself as a real authority of the area. And people are going to want to work with him. And firms are going to want to have him because people are going to want to work with him. So you see that, he's taking, he's not losing himself or what he was as the ad executive. He's just taking those skills and the information and knowledge he already knows to really position him well for that next jump. And while you're doing this and creating all that great content, Bob cannot forget about the SEO basics. So make sure that you're creating content and websites and profiles in line with all of the SEO basics we discussed. He's going to make sure that his site is structured well, that he's getting, his name in key places throughout his websites, profiles, and all the content he creates. He wants to make sure that he keeps it active, that he's linking to it and sharing it on social media and making those connections. And by doing all of that, he's making sure that when someone, Googles his name during the hiring process, or when a new client Googles his name once he's in it, he wants to make sure that people can actually find it. And while this won't be the only reason why he gets a job with a real estate company, it can definitely influence it, as we saw in that example in the beginning. So now meet real estate agent Bob. So that's what I had in terms of information. If you're stuck or if anything was confusing or you want someone to handle this for you, Brand Yourself can help in a number of ways. First and foremost, we have a free do-it-yourself tool. You can upgrade for $100 a year, but at the very least, get started with the free tool. What that does is it walks you through a lot of the SEO steps that I talked about today. So if you have a Twitter, we'll make sure that we really walk you through how to make sure that Twitter is as SEO friendly as possible, or your LinkedIn, so that when recruiters or HR managers are looking you up, they're able to easily find it. To the far right, the next step up, we have our Head Start services. And what this really does is it takes a lot of the bulk out of creating, the websites and profiles. We do that for you, basically. So what we'll do is we'll figure out the best way to position you online, whether it's for that new job, for the new position in the new industry, and then we'll build you, custom, website profiles. We'll make sure that they're optimized to rank well, and then we'll leave you with a plan so that you can manage it yourself over time. So if you're, you definitely want to do all this stuff, you're just a little scared about creating the website, or you're nervous about all the work that's going to go into creating the profiles, we'll handle all that for you in Head Start and really leave you with a plan. So all you have to worry about is managing your content and creating new content over time. And then in the middle, our concierge service is, we do everything for you. So if you're too busy or you really, you're not comfortable doing this all yourself, we'll build your websites and profiles, we'll optimize them for search engines, and then we'll manage them for you over time. So we'll create that content for you, the blogs, the slide shares, social media management, and we'll do it to help position you as an authority. So if you are looking to really jump ship in terms of your industry, we'll make sure that you're being positioned for the new industry you're going into or the new position that you want. So that's how we can help. If you're interested about any of that stuff, you can definitely, you can email consultations@BrandYourself.com. I'll also have a link on the next slide for a consultation, or you can just go to our site, BrandYourself.com, and figure out the best avenue for you, and we'll have more information about all the stuff I talked about. And then before I jump into questions, I do want to say, we do offer a free personal branding session, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. It's no strings attached. So even if you choose to not work with us, you still have had this session where what we'll do is we'll sit with you, we'll take a look at your current online presence, and we'll give you some very specific tips for how you can improve it and make it better. So at the very least, what you're doing is you're walking away with a game plan for what you need to do. So whether or not you choose to, hire us to do it for you, you at least have that game plan. And you're able to really know your next steps. So again, cannot stress enough how important this session is. I highly recommend everyone takes advantage of it. To do so, you can schedule it directly by typing that link into your search bar. It's bit.ly/BY consult. I'll also in a moment copy and paste it into the chat bar. And also this audio and recording will be made available to everyone who registered, and I'll make sure to include the link to the consultations in that email. So that is all I had. Let me type that in for you right in the chat bar. There you go. I would like to take some questions now. So if you have one, definitely let me know. Again, I'll make the recording available. And let's get started with some questions. Okay, so a lot of people were asking if the recording is going to be available, but it is. Over the next, few days, we'll email it out to everyone, and then you'll have my contact information as well. So then someone asked, which site can I use to automate my social media updates on my social media profiles? So I mentioned two. One was Hootsuite, so Hoot like an owl and Suite, and that basically will allow you to monitor your social media accounts as well as schedule tweets. So if you're feeling on one Sunday, you just want to figure out all the tweets that you want to send, you'll be able to send it through there. And then the other site for automation is a site called IFT, and it stands for If This Then That. So IFFTT.com. And basically, what it does is you can say, if I tweet something, I want to also share it to Facebook. If I, put something on Google Plus, I also want it to go to my Twitter and my Facebook. It's basically you create these recipes that are for automation. And you can also do a lot of really cool stuff with it aside from SEO and online reputation management. I know one of the girls in our office uses it to remind her to bring an umbrella if it's raining out. So she has it set up so that if the forecast calls for rain, she'll get a text message that says, remember your umbrella, which is kind of cool. It's a really powerful site. I definitely recommend you check it out. So the next question is about bios. And it says, I have been given conflicting information about bios. Write the bio in third person versus first person. Because I have an original children's book and companion pieces, I was told that the first person is more folksy and something parents would be more interested in when it comes to reading the about author to their children. And somewhere else, I should embed the more formal third person bio. I'm a little confused. Okay, so in terms of SEO, Third person is always better because what that does is it gets your name somewhere on the site. In your case, it does make sense to write in the first person because you're able to really, introduce yourself to your readers, to the children. So what I would recommend doing is, for your, have two bios, kind of like an informal and a formal. And what I mean by this is, for your informal one, that's the one where you're really speaking to the children. You're really talking about, who you are and why you do what you do. For the third person one, that one can be used as sort of what we call, what Patrick even calls his speaking bio. So it's a short bio, maybe one paragraph that someone can use if they want, to introduce you somewhere, or if they want to write about you, they want just the information. They don't want to sift through your first person stuff. So I would definitely recommend that you can have both and do it in a way that it's not weird. I hope I answered your question there. If there's still some confusion, just type a follow up in the bar, and I'll definitely get into it. So the next question that I have is, and I'm not too clear about this, but I'm actually going to ask for some clarification. It's how to get rid of info that's not yours under your profile. I'm just a little confused. Can you provide some more follow-up information if you're the one that asked that question? If you control the profile, then you control the information and should be able to change that. But I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean. So just please send a follow-up. So the next question, would you recommend definitely having a personal website and having a link from your blog to your personal site? Or is the blog sufficient even if the URL isn't your name? Okay, so I think what you're asking is, and I could be wrong here, if you have a personal site and a blog, and the blog isn't, it doesn't have your name in the domain, but it's more of, the identity of the blog is the domain. What I would do here is just link the two. And maybe on the blog, have an about the author, and that's where you include information about you, your bio, your name, all of that fun stuff. And then maybe in the about page of the blog, you have a link to your personal site that basically says, for more information about the blog's creator or contributor or author, find more information here. I think that's a really good way to link the two. So making sure that you do have that bio somewhere on the blog and also a link back to your personal site for more information. Okay. So the next question is about how to get more followers on Facebook and Twitter. So this one, it definitely falls into more of, the marketing realm. Once you have your Twitter or your Facebook, how do you get more followers? And one of the easiest ways, actually, is to just start following people. A lot of people will follow you back. So what I definitely recommend is, find people or pages or things like that are relevant to your industry, maybe key brands and companies you can follow. A cool trick here with Twitter is, find a company that's in your brand, see who follows the company, and follow all those people. Because if they're interested in that brand and that industry, and you're looking to create an online identity in that industry, then they'll probably be interested in what you have to say and be more likely to follow you back. So definitely start with just following people. And then sharing content. The more content you share, the more likely it's going to be reshared, and people are going to find you that way. And then still, if you're having some issues, with your follower account, you can choose to go a paid route. I'm not saying buy followers, but you can purchase Facebook advertising so that your Facebook page just reaches more people and it will hopefully increase more likes. Or you can purchase Twitter advertising or something like that. So those are all of your options, but I would definitely before you spend any money, just start following people and getting engaged, and you'll really notice how it can increase. And also this is my last note about this, I swear, put your Facebook or Twitter profiles, put links to that in your email signature. So if you're emailing someone and, in your email signature it is your name and, maybe your direct line, your title, the company you work for, maybe also put, follow me on Twitter. you can get a few that way. I know at Brand Yourself, we all have, I don't have my personal one in my email, but I have Brand Yourself's Twitter account in my email. And it just says, for more information, follow us on Twitter, which is a really great way to just, remind people that you're on these social networks. And if they're communicating with you through email and they find, you really interesting, or you're talking about a lot of stuff, then you can also, you might find that they'll follow you back. So definitely, those options are really great to increase follower count. Oh, someone actually wasn't a question, but made a suggestion. Going back to the social media automation, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this one. It's probably one of the more popular, Buffer app. So that's Buffer, and basically buffer.com, you can go there. That's also a really great tool for automating things. You might even notice that when you see people on social media, especially on Twitter, sharing links, that you'll notice they're from Buffer, and that basically just means that they're using that Buffer tool. That's also a really great free one to use as well. There are also plenty of other ones out there, so if you find one I didn't mention, it's not that it's bad. I just probably wasn't aware of it, or haven't used it and didn't want to recommend it. But try one that works for you, and try a few. The majority of them are free, so you can try to find a good fit for you. Okay, so then now someone's asking another question. Is it true that you shouldn't post the exact bio on every single site and social media network? So you should not. Keyword should not post the exact same bio on every network. A reason for this is it goes back to SEO. So Google recently released an update to its algorithms, which is basically all the factors that go into how it decides to rank information in its search results. And what this update did is it started to penalize websites that had duplicate content. And the reason for that is, people were starting to abuse the system a little bit. And what they would do is they would take the same content and clone it on 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of sites to try to build out their SEO profile. And basically, Google wanted to put a stop to that. And also what they wanted to do is, for the sake of relevant content, it wanted to make sure that people were getting, varying content. So if all of the content that you have is the same across your sites and profiles, you might notice that you're going to start to drop rank. And basically, that was a very long explanation to say, just make sure that your content is unique. And that means, maybe you have a different bio that's on your website that's on your LinkedIn, or you have a different bio on your Twitter or another social media site. You don't have to get too crazy because it's about you. So all of the, guts of the information is going to be the same, but maybe, position it in a different way and tailor it to the site that you're posting it on. A lot of social media sites, due to, character limits, kind of make you do a unique bio, which is good. For example, Twitter is a much shorter bio than you would write on your LinkedIn, for example. But just make sure that the content is unique. And that you're not, copy and pasting the exact, 6-page bio across all of your websites and profiles, and you should be fine. Okay, so the same person who had the question about, she was a writer and didn't know if she should do the first person or the third person. You had a follow-up about specifically where you should put them. I would really need to see, your websites and profiles. So if you want, to schedule that consultation, or when I send out the recording, shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to take a look. I just don't want to, kind of speculate what your stuff looks like and try to give advice. I'd rather just see it and then give you advice on where to put the bios. So if you want to follow up with me, I'd be more than happy to take a look. Okay, so someone said that they use their LinkedIn bio in Brand Yourself. So they use the same LinkedIn profile as they used on their Brand Yourself profile. And I know And we are working to make this a little bit more clear on the Brand Yourself profiles. When you do sign up with LinkedIn, it basically imports all of your content to your Brand Yourself profile, including your bio. Unfortunately, what you're going to want to do is also just go in and make sure that your Brand Yourself one's a little bit unique. You don't have to get crazy, and we are getting better at communicating this. Part of the reason why we haven't is this is a recent Google update. You know, Google's constantly changing and updating its algorithms, so we have to try to be as lean and mean and work with them as possible. But sometimes some things fall through the cracks. But so just log into your Brain Soul profile and maybe restructure some things, maybe add some more information, and just make it a little bit different than your LinkedIn one, and you should be okay. Okay, so I got another long question, so bear with me. So I heard that blogging and newsletters are fantastic, providing you have the time to keep them up constantly. Because I'm wearing all hats in my business, I'm realistic about time, and that this is not never ending. Also, about Facebook, even though I have set it to the business page, I can only like a business similar to mine through my personal Facebook page. Confused again. Okay, I'm sorry you're confused. So I think you had a two-part question. One was about, the newsletters and blogging and how it's a great way, to not only create your own online presence, but if you are a business owner, drawing attention to your business. And that's all true. And, we recognize, you're a business owner, all of your time is going into your business, you might not have time. So that's why first it's really important to set that schedule. Just try to blog once a month, or if you can, once a week. Just try to set a regular schedule where you know that you can get that content out there. If it does, become, way too much, you can, look into hiring someone to help you out with that. Whether it's someone you bring in-house, Brand Yourself is part of our services. When you're on our concierge service, we do blog as part of, and among other forms of content, we do that as well. So if you really, you have zero time to absolutely do this, you might want to consider, hiring someone. To your second point about the Facebook, about, you can't really like people unless they're related. So the following is definitely true for Twitter. Facebook, it's constantly changing in terms of as a business owner, how you're able to like things. To increase your followers on Facebook, first I would, share it. Share it on your Twitter. Say, hey, if you like us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook. Put it in your email signature. Make sure it's on your website, that it's, easily accessible to as many people as possible. And then you might need to make that decision that, you want to go the route of Facebook advertising. It's not super expensive. You can set a budget so you won't blow out your budget. But maybe you experiment, with, $100 and see how many followers you get. And if you think that that's worth it. You might want to go that route. But first, just try to get your Facebook as many places as possible and see if that can help. So I have time for, let's take one more question. We're just about out of time. I'm loving all these questions. This is great. Okay, I'm just sifting through. Okay, should you copy and paste your LinkedIn recommendations on your personal website? Okay, so for anyone who's unfamiliar, on LinkedIn, you can have someone write a recommendation for you. So if you worked with someone, they can write a recommendation right on your LinkedIn, and it's basically, they're vouching for you. So what I would do is I would definitely have them as testimonial on your website. For the sake of avoiding duplicate content, one trick that we actually use at Brand Yourself, if someone writes something great about us on our website and we put it on our website and we want to share it other places, we want to avoid duplicate content, we might, just take a picture of it and then put the picture on the website. Or you can just link, from your personal website right to your LinkedIn and say, for recommendations on these skills, link right here. Or maybe you just pull excerpts from the recommendations. It's really your call in terms of how you want to position it. But I definitely, it can only help you. people that come to your website would like to see that, you're being supported for these different areas of your field and things that you've done. So I would include it. So that's all we have time for today. I know I didn't get to all the questions. Again, we will be sending out this webinar probably tomorrow via email. It'll come from my email. So if you have a question, feel free to ask me directly or schedule that consultation. I could not recommend it more. It's so helpful for at least you get a good starting point for what you need to do. And again, it's really no pressure. So if you decide to not work with us at the end of it, you still walk away with some really great tips. So definitely make sure, to sign up for your consultation. We'll be having another webinar next week if you haven't already registered for it. And that is on the 5 types of Google results that could actually harm your online reputation and what you can do about each one. So if you're dealing with a negative result, or if you're worried about a negative result, or if you're in this position where you're looking to move careers, or you're going to have a lot of eyes on your results, this webinar will be a really good job to make sure that there's nothing out there that's damaging it. So make sure to check that out. And thank you all for joining us. And I hope you all have a very, very great weekend.